Hi, this video explains how to distinguish between tenses, which are time-related expressions, and the things that look like tenses but are not tenses. These things include the subjunctive mood, as in, if I were a bird, I would fly away, or if I had not said those mean things, I would not have gotten fired. Next is the modals, as in, could I help you? Or I was hoping to see the school principal. Lastly, the passive voice, as in, the book is being written, or I am sued. Let's take a look at each of these cases and learn how they're different from the tenses. By the way, this video is a sequel to this video, so if you haven't watched it, I recommend that you do. Anyway, let's begin. Whenever you make a sentence in English, you have to make clear whether you are talking about something real or unreal. Real things are things that happened in the past, things happening now, or things likely to happen in the future. On the other hand, unreal things are the things that did not happen, things not happening now, or things not likely to happen in the future. Basically, they're just in your imagination. Depending on which one you're talking about, you have to use different verb forms. The verb form for real things are called the indicative mood, while the verb forms for unreal things are called the subjunctive mood. For the indicative mood, you use normal verb forms. These are the stuff that we're familiar with, like eat for the present, ate for the past, and will eat for the future. However, for the subjunctive mood, there are multiple sentence structures to choose from. Let's take a look at each of them, starting with the first case scenario. The first case is when you're demanding, recommending, or deciding something. People consider this case unreal because at the moment you demand, what you demand for only exists in your imagination. The verb form for this case is called the mandative subjunctive. You need two things for the mandative subjunctive. First, you must have a word whose meanings are similar to demanding, recommending, or deciding. Here are some of those words. Secondly, in the part that explains what you want, the verb must be in the base form, and the base form must be maintained regardless of subject and tense. Here's what I mean. Take the sentence, the protesters demand that the company cancel the plan. First, we have the word demand, which is the first feature of mandative subjunctive. Secondly, in the clause that explains what the protesters want, the base form is used for the verb cancel. How do I know if it's in the base form? Well, if the sentence were in the indicative mood, the verb should have been cancels because the subject the company is in the third person singular. However, the sentence uses cancel, so we know that this sentence is in the mandative subjunctive. Another example sentence is the congressman insisted that the law be repealed. The word insisted tells us that this sentence is in the mandative subjunctive. And in the clause that explains what the congressman is going to insist on, the base form is used for the verb be. Here, I also have to point out that the base form must be used in all tenses. For instance, although the word insisted tells us that this happened in the past, the verb be is still used in its base form. Moving on, the second case scenario for the subjunctive mood is called the past subjunctive. You use it for all unreal things except for what you demand, recommend, or decide. Despite its name, you can actually talk about unreal things of the past, present, and future with the past subjunctive mood. It's called the past subjunctive only because its default verb form is in the simple past tense. Anyway, the past subjunctive requires different sentence structures for unreal things of the past, present, and the future. However, they do share some common features, so let me show you what they have in common before I talk about each of them in detail. First, you must have some hint words in the sentence. These words include if, as though, wish, suppose, imagine, and etc. Second, for the unreal part of the sentence, you have to shift the verb tense. For unreal things of the present and future, you use the simple past tense. For unreal things of the past, you use had plus pp. Third, all variations of the verb be are replaced with were. Fourth, hint words may disappear in a special sentence structure called the subject auxiliary inversion. I'll talk about this later. Okay, we're ready to examine each sentence structure for unreal things. The first sentence structure is for unreal things of the present. When you talk about unreal things of the present, you must first have a hint word, as in if, as though, wish, suppose, imagine, and etc. Then, for the unreal part of the sentence, the first element of the verb chunk must be in simple past tense. Third, you must use were for all variations of the be verb. For example, let's analyze the sentence, she is talking as if she owned the place. First, we have the hinting word as if, so we know that this sentence is going to be in the subjunctive mood. Next, we know this talking part is real because this part is written in present tense and the subjunctive mood doesn't have present tense form. Next, we know that this part is unreal because the verb owned is in the simple past tense. So she doesn't actually own the place. Instead, the speaker imagined that she does due to the way she speaks. Here's one more sentence to analyze. If I were a bird, I would fly away. First, we know the sentence is in the subjunctive mood because the hint word if is there. Second, you know this sentence is in the subjunctive mood because the word were comes after I. This is never possible in the indicative mood where am or was comes after I. Third, the verb would is in the simple past tense. Since the simple past tense is the default form of the subjunctive mood, we know that the speaker is imagining unreal things. Here are some more example sentences. I'll not analyze them though. Let's move on to the unreal things of the future. The structure for unreal things of the future is quite similar to that of the present unreal things. There are two major structures for future unreal things though. The first structure consists of three features. The word if, simple past tense for verbs, and were for all variations of the verb be. This structure is very similar to that of the present unreal things. Here's an example sentence. If I were a bird, I would fly away. You have a hinting word, you have verbs in simple past forms, and have were for the verb be. However, if you really want to make a clear distinction between the present and future, you have to use this sentence structure. First, have the hint word if, and then have either were to or should in the same clause. Secondly, have would or could or should in another clause. Here's what I mean. Take the sentence, if I were to die tomorrow, Jason would become the next CEO. The hint word if is there, and you have were to in the same clause. In another clause, you have the word would. In this case, you're talking about unreal things of the future. The speaker thinks that the chance of his or her dying tomorrow is very low. Moving on, let's talk about unreal things of the past. There are two major sentence structures. One involves the hinting word if, and the other involves the rest of the cases. Let's first take a look at the rest of the cases. First, you have a hinting word other than if. Second, use had plus pp for the verb. And third, use were for all variations of the verb be. This structure is the same as the unreal things of the present except the tense shift. Let me show you an example. I wish you had given him a piece of advice. Here, we have a hinting word wish, so we know it's going to be about unreal things. Next, we have had plus pp form of the verb had given. Hence, we know that the speaker is talking about the unreal things of the past. Now, let's talk about the sentence structure that involves the hint word if. In one clause, you have the word if and had plus pp. And in the other clause, you have would or could or should or might plus have plus pp. Here's an example. If I had not said those bad things, I would not have gotten fired. We have the word if and had plus pp in the same clause, and we have would plus have plus pp in the other clause. Here's another example. If Jason had worked harder, he could have passed the exam. We have if and had plus pp in the same clause and could plus have plus pp in the other clause. Here are some other example sentences, but I'm not going to analyze them. Okay, now let's talk about the common feature of the past subjunctive mood that I ignored all along. Remember how I said that hint words can disappear in a special sentence structure? This rule applies to all past subjunctive moods, whether it is talking about the past, present, or future. This special structure is called the subject auxiliary inversion. Auxiliary verbs are words such as do, am, have, will, which usually comes at the beginning of the verb chunk. For the clause that has hint word if in it, you can switch place between the subject and the auxiliary verb. If you do so, you can erase the hint word if. Let me show you some examples. Were I a bird, I would fly away. This sentence is perfectly correct. Originally, it was if I were a bird, I would fly away. But in the clause with the hint word, I switch place between the subject I and the auxiliary verb were. And then I erase the hint word if. That is how you get were I a bird, I would fly away. Let me show you another example. Had I studied hard, I could have passed the exam. The original sentence is if I had studied hard, I could have passed the exam. In the clause with the hint word, I switch place between the subject I and the auxiliary verb had. And then I erase the hint word if. That is how I got the sentence, had I studied hard, I could have passed the exam. Here are some other example sentences, but I'm not going to analyze them. Okay, now we're done with the subjunctive moods. Let's move on to the next confusing thing, the modals. Modals are words such as can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must, and etc. They come before other verbs to express multiple meanings, including possibility and obligation, as in I can eat or I must stay home tonight. What's confusing about the modals is that sometimes would or could or might are used as the past tense of will or can or may, but in other times they have nothing to do with the past tense. So let's see which case is which. First, let's see cases in which would or could or might have nothing to do with the past tenses. The first case scenario is when modals are used to express possibility. Each modal represents a different degree of possibility. If you are 100% sure that a pie tastes good if you put sugar in it, say a pie must taste good if you put sugar in it. If you are uncertain, then replace must with might, as in a pie might taste good if you put sugar in it. When you're using modals in this sense, would or could or might have nothing to do with the past tense. The sentence is talking about your current estimation instead of a past one. The next case scenario is when modals are used to express politeness. Because would or could or might express much weaker possibilities compared to their present forms, would and could and might are often used to express politeness. In that case, did or was or were also joins the list to talk about the current situation instead of a past one. Take these sentences for example. In the first sentence, the speaker is politely asking whether you want some drinks instead of asking whether you wanted a drink in the past. In the second sentence, the speaker is politely saying that he or she wants to see the principal now. Okay, now, let's move on to talk about the cases in which would or could or might do talk about the past time. It is when you're talking about someone saying or thinking will or can or may in the past. For example, if you heard Jason saying, I will be back yesterday, and if you're telling your friends what you heard, you would say, Jason said yesterday that he would be back. Take another example. Let's say a situation did not go in the way you planned. If you wanted to tell this to people, you say, wow, that's not what I thought would happen. Alright, we're now done with the modals. Let's move on to the last confusing thing, the passive voice. What is a passive voice? Usually, English sentences follow the structure of subject, verb, and object, which refer to the doer of an action, the action, and the receiver of the action, as in Tom washes an apple. If you change the order of the words, as in an apple washes Tom, then the doer and the receiver changes. This subject-verb-object structure is called the active voice. However, sometimes you don't know who the doer of the action is, or sometimes the doer doesn't matter. In this case, we have to change the sentence structure into the passive voice. Here's how you do it. First, you erase the doer and put the receiver in the doer's position. Second, you put the be verb in front of the original verb wash and change it into its correct form. Third, you change the original verb wash into its PP form washed and you have a sentence in a passive voice. Other examples are John is loved or I am sued. If you wonder what PP is, please refer to this video. Anyway, PPs are used in both the perfect tenses and the passive voice. Because they are used in both, people often get confused. But remember, in passive voice, the PPs always come right after the be verb, though the form of the be verb may be different. For instance, the following sentences are all in the passive voice. The only exception to this rule is that adverbs may occasionally come in between the V verb and the PP. Alright, that's it guys. We've gone through everything that looks like a tense but is not a tense. If you have any questions, ask me in the comment section and hit subscribe for more English lessons. It was nice having you. Please check out the videos on each tense, and goodbye.